Hi guys, so for this next project, we're gonna be making a bowl and a cup, but we're gonna be using molds, or in our case, since we're working from home, you just want to use a bowl that you already have, whether it's ceramic or plastic, and also a cup. One thing you're gonna want to do is for the bowl, you'll want to wrap it up with some plastic wrap, so saran wrap, because we don't want to put the clay directly on the ceramic or plastic bowl, because otherwise the clay would get stuck to it. Same thing with the cup. You want to line it up with some newspaper so that we could easily slide it off. I brought here two examples, two cups. I like the squared looking one. I just brought a regular cup, but just for preference. But you guys only need to do one. You do need one bowl and one cup. But so yeah, so ram wrap. I'm gonna be putting the clay on top of this. I also like to have just a plastic cup to put the bowl right on top so that it hangs over. So when I put the clay over, I'm gonna have some hanging over and I could cut it off a lot easier. So start the process. I have a slab of clay, and if you have a rolling pin, you start flattening this out. Sorry for all the shaking. You could either use the rolling pin or do the toss method. Tossing the clay at an angle also stretches it out. We don't want to make this too thin. Sorry. Because then we're going to run into problems. So I would aim for about 1/4 of an inch thickness. Could be a little bit thicker. I want to make sure that my slab is able to cover up the entire bowl. So I'm going to make it larger than what I would originally need. Remember, when you're making a slab, continue to flip it over. Just so it doesn't get stuck to your work surface. Okay, I think I almost have it. Okay, I think that'll do. Now that I have a slab, I want to compress it. So I'm going to grab my metal rib. I just dipped it on some water, and I'm going to smooth out and compress the clay. The reason why you want to do this is so that your slab remains pretty strong and sturdy. If you don't compress the clay particles, there's a chance that your bowl could just snap. As it dries, it could snap. You'll have a crack down the middle of it or just anywhere on it. So you'll want to compress and smooth out both sides. Okay, so that's my slab for my bowl. I'm gonna grab my bowl covered in saran wrap, put it on top of a cup so the bowl is just raised off. I'm gonna place my slab. And now I'm just gonna gently start to put the slab on my bowl. And you have to do this part like to stretch things gently, because as you see that, and I'm gonna have to have folds. I don't want those folds. I'm just gonna like slowly and gently press on the slab so it could wrap around. I'm gonna cut some clay off. I probably will cut just some extra clay because I do have way more, and all that extra clay gets in my way for this process. Just cutting off all that. This clay was also a little bit on the stiff side. Yes, if the clay is softer, it should react a little bit better. Okay, now again, let's just gently push on the clay to stretch it. So I don't want any of the folds. Because those folds are gonna become troublesome later on. And that's why I also want the bowl to be, hanging over so I could get underneath. I could feel once the clay is like right against the edge of the bowl. This part, just takes some time, some getting used to, and again, it's just you're gently working the clay to stretch it out. It'll slowly take shape. Since the clay is a little on the dry side, I'm adding a little bit of moisture. Some of the moisture is going to help with the stretching. That's another reason you want sort of a thicker slab of clay, because if it was too thin as it stretches, it also gets thin. I don't want to end up with a really thin bowl. So I'm going to have more extra clay at the edge, and I could cut it again so that it just becomes easier to handle. want, I could flip this over and I could see kind of how it's going. So I'm using just both of my hands to get the clay to wrap around my bowl. Use my sponge just to smooth out the outside and just give a little bit of moisture to the clay. The other thing about this is that we don't actually want to leave the clay on the bowl or in your mold, because the clay is gonna dry, and if it stays on the mold as it dries, it's gonna shrink, and it's gonna shrink against the bowl, and then that could cause it to split. So we're not gonna leave this on here the entire time. It's just here temporarily until we get our shape. See how it looks. That's pretty much wrapped. Now that for the most part it's already wrapped, I could just make sure the edges are right against the edge of my bowl. Then I could use the edge of the bowl to cut this out evenly. We will eventually clean up the edge of the clay bowl. I'm actually going to add a coil to it to reinforce it, because the way it looks right now, it wouldn't be that strong. Okay, so there's that. Now, since the bottom of the bowl, the actual bowl, had the ring, that ring kind of appeared on the outside. And what I actually want to do is I want to add a coil on top of this. That coil is going to give my bowl a foot. So it's raised off. Just so it's not just a flat bottom. I wanted to have a foot, so I could take some of this extra clay. Or maybe not, it's a little on the dry side. Maybe we'll grab some softer clay. I want to make a coil out of this. Pretty much gonna make a ring that's gonna be scored and slipped to the bottom. You can see how. making my foot, score and slip. See, I'm gonna put that ring on here to make a foot. Score. And some water. Again, this foot's just gonna make your bowl also stronger. It's reinforcing that bottom, so that you don't have a weak bottom. Blend it. Blend this and make sure that that ring is right on my bowl and it doesn't fall off. So just a foot just makes it look a lot nicer, you know, and it raises up the bowl. Also blend the outside. So I want this ring to stay on here. I want my foot to stay on. Pretty much using the cup that the ball is under to help me with the spin. There's my foot. I could flip it over to make sure the foot stays flat. Now I'm also gonna add a ring to the lip of this because, you know, it's not looking very nice. Also, making a ring on the top is gonna reinforce that edge on the top so that I don't have a crack later on, because if I just leave it how it is and smooth it out, I'll get a crack. So I'm also gonna add a coil to the top, a ring to it to reinforce it. So I could actually do that now. So I'm gonna put this aside. I'm still gonna leave it on the bowl. I'm gonna make my ring. It does have to be a pretty large long coil so it could wrap around the entire edge of the bowl. Keep in mind the consistency of your clay. You know, the clay I'm using here, it's not as soft. So the bowl is keeping its shape. If your clay is really soft, you might have to wait some time so that it gets leather hard. See if that ring wraps around, making sure it's pretty even. Right. Yeah, the other thing is I'm gonna put this on the outer edge because I still want to be able to take the bowl off. If I put it a little to the inside, then I'm gonna trap that bowl, which is not what I want. I want it more on the outside edge so that I'm able to take the bowl off. Score and slip. I'm also going to score along the edge. Actually, before this, I'm going to take my paddle, just paddle the edge so it's a little bit nicer looking. Just a very gentle paddling. Score, score, score. Make sure my ring fits right on here. Like it does, and I'm gonna score my ring too. Water. Put it on. Again, this ring, it's gonna reinforce the edge of the bowl of the slab, so you have a stronger rim, and so that your bowl doesn't crack along the edges. I could actually flip this over, put it directly on my surface. I could blend it. I think now that you guys have used some tools, you'll have your favorite tools to use. Okay, so now just blending the coil to the edge of the plate. Flip this over, check how things are looking. Now I think I'm probably about ready to take this off. So let's see. Alright, so there's plastic wrap in between. We should be able to pull off the ceramic bowl. Because again, we don't want to leave the bowl in there because the clay is going to shrink around it. Set this on a sponge and try to pull out the ceramic bowl. Just very gently pull the edges apart. I'm just gonna try to get the bowl out. Okay, let's get a grip. Okay, it's coming out. There it is. Plastic is on the clay, and we could just peel it off. Here's my bowl. You know, it's leather hard, you know. Keep in mind, you know, how yours is feeling. If it's way too soft, leave it alone. Maybe blow dry it or just leave it out so it could dry up a bit. I'm actually gonna leave this alone for a bit, and then later on I'll come back in and, you know, smooth out the inside edges to my rim. But that's a bowl using another bowl as a mold, and then see how the inside already has kind of like that nice rim or that little edge created by the outside of the bowl. With this technique, you could technically make a whole bunch, you know, if you want, just create a whole set. It's pretty easy, you know, you don't have to buy expensive plaster molds. But yeah, I'm gonna let that sit out, and then in the meantime I'm gonna go ahead and start the cup. So I'll have another video for that. I'll see you guys in a bit.